then we look at Devonta Smith and like just, flip the script basically. And we have the opposite profile, right? We have a guy who couldn't beat out players that we already know are mediocre to poor in the NFL. Henry Ruggs, I just saw PFF posted, I think it was today even, that Henry Ruggs has like the lowest grade among first rounders in like the last, I forget how many years. Yeah, okay, they had a first rounder, but he wasn't good in college. Like, it's not like he stole a bunch of market share. Like, he only had 17% was his highest college dominator rating.
Oh,
that's
low.
Yeah, that's really low. Like, we're looking for like 30%. So when he only has 17%, he's no different than another like nobody on the team. Like, bad players have 17% on every team. For Devonta Smith not to break out earlier because of the presence of Henry Ruggs doesn't really make sense. So if your argument is that, well, Jerry Jeudy's really good. Well, Jerry Jeudy didn't have a really good rookie season. He had an okay rookie season. The thing for me is that Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs entered the NFL and they had exactly the type of season that we would expect based on their college production. Jerry Jeudy looked like a good NFLer, or like an NFLer at the very least. Like, he looked like he belonged in the NFL in college. Henry Ruggs looked like he didn't belong in the NFL in college. And then we get to the NFL in the rookie seasons, and they played exactly to those prospect profiles. And we made exceptions for them last year, or most people did, because of the presence of these future first-round picks. It's like, well, if it didn't matter for Jeudy and it didn't matter for Ruggs, why are we then making the same exceptions for Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith? We already know they played to their prospect profile. Mm-hmm. So shouldn't these guys play to their prospect profile? And Devonta Smith's prospect profile isn't good. He didn't produce at 18. He didn't produce at 19. He did produce at 20, which was a great sign. It still matters to some degree that he played at Alabama. I just wouldn't boost Ruggs because he played at Alabama. Like, you might as well boost everyone who played at Alabama then, because none of the other guys produced either. Anyways, Devonta Smith has this production profile, and then he just exploded at 22. It's funny because if you just my grades are more or less locked in after their junior season. After the third season, they're pretty much locked in. The senior season doesn't matter. I'm already assuming that every junior will hit at the senior level. Like, I'm just making that assumption because they should. So Jeudy going on and just crushing this year, yeah, I mean, that should be expected. And then when you look at, I get told all the time that, yeah, but he produced to this extreme level. He didn't just produce; he produced to an extreme level. It's like, okay, but once you get above a certain level, it doesn't matter anymore. It's a threshold. It's not linear. Like, 40% college dominator isn't better than 35% college dominator. It's the same. Once you get
diminishing returns. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get to a certain level, it's all the same. Devonta Smith just doesn't have a lot of good data points. And then when you factor in that he's just like this, toothpick, like he's skinny for a normal guy. He's not skinny for a NFL player. Mm-hmm. It's alarming. There's nobody that's been drafted basically at his BMI since Marvin Harrison. To be honest, the website that everyone's pulling that from, I'm not even sure is correct because they had a whole bunch of players wrong. They had Justin Jefferson at a tiny BMI because in college he was listed at 6'2" and 190 pounds, or 6'3" and 190 pounds, which he's not. He's I forget what he is now. Is he 6'2", 205 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
He's fine for BMI. So this website was wrong across the board. They had Randy Moss wrong. They had Randy Moss at this tiny BMI. They had him listed at 6'4" and 190 or 180 or something like that. If you look up his actual pro day, and then it's supposed to be from the combine. He didn't even go to the combine. He missed his combine. You go to his pro day, he weighed in at 6'4", 210, which is what he played at, which is a good BMI, which is the same as AJ Green's BMI. Yeah. So once you start looking at, well, BMI, does this really matter? Well, this is what factors into the profile type I was just talking about, the alpha and the beta. Devonta Smith looks like a beta, which is a really low ceiling, right? Think he's Jerry Jeudy. He honestly is Jerry Jeudy all over again. If Jerry Jeudy had stayed and Devonta Smith had declared last year, I would have expected it to be the exact opposite. Jerry Jeudy would have just crushed this year as well. There's no doubt in my mind they're the same player essentially, which is to say, they're complementary receivers. They're
Mhm.
NFL receivers, but they're complementary.